The Iran-Israel war is reaching a crucial turning point. Both sides are visibly tiring. The Israelis are very clear that they cannot win this war without the active support and involvement of the United States. That seemed very much on the cards till yesterday. But today there has been a significant shift in the overall attitude of the United States. Donald Trump has made a clear-cut statement that he will decide whether the United States will get involved in 2 weeks, and in the meantime he will try and give the peace process a chance. Despite the declaratory statements, I am not very sure whether this has been a fixed match from the very beginning. 2 months back, we saw the process in which there was the good cop, bad cop routine. America tried to mount diplomatic pressure on Iran to sign a nuclear agreement, giving up its right to nuclear weapons or any activity in that regards. This time there was the added caveat that they also wanted to dismantle Iran's ballistic missile program. In effect, dismantling the ballistic missile program means making Iran completely defenseless against Israel. So, will Iran be persuaded to accept such a suicidal kind of a outcome? Remains open to question. It remains to be seen. Maybe it is tactic to pressurize Iran, but the simple fact is, let's not forget that Donald Trump had cancelled the nuclear deal with Iran, which Obama had negotiated, on the pretext that ballistic missiles were not included. Iran has no air force worth the name to talk of, and taking away its ballistic missiles means making the state absolutely defenseless and hostage to Iranian or to Israeli air force attacks. Whether as a nation state Iran can be persuaded to accept this dangerous kind of a situation is open to question. So in any case, what we saw was the good cop, bad cop routine. While America was trying to negotiate with Iran, the Israelis were steadily ratcheting up the military threats and pressure on Iran. Ultimately, Donald Trump gave 60 days to Iran to come around and accept a nuclear agreement that was to be dictated by the United States. Even while the talks were on, there was one more round of talks which was coming almost on the Monday. The moment the 60-day moratorium given by Donald Trump was over, on the night of 12th and 13th June, Israel struck very hard against Iran. Frankly, Iran was not expecting an attack at this time because the talks were ongoing. And they were taken by surprise, and a large number of their military commanders were together in a conference when Israel struck. So let us now at this stage take a look at what has happened so far and where is it likely to go. What is the matrix of options? Are we heading for an off-ramp and conflict resolution, or are we heading for intensification of this war, its conversion into a regional conflagration which could affect the whole globe by affecting oil prices in a very negative manner? Already the price of oil has shot up by 17%, and if this war widens, then it could escalate to $120, $150 a barrel, which would be a disaster for the global economy. I want to pose this question very clearly. Since 1992, Israel has been talking of a nascent Iranian nuclear capability and how it cannot tolerate that. We have been told that it is about to reach that level, and the simple fact is Israel is right to a very great extent. Iran has made open threats that Israel needs to be destroyed. I don't think such threats were called for. I don't think such threats are the normal routine in international relations. The threat to wipe out a state, the threat to wipe out a state and deny it the right to exist, well, is a dangerous provocation. And if you give dangerous provocations, then I'm afraid you have no option but to, take the consequences. The simple fact is that Iran felt that Sunni Arabs had totally buckled under Israel's military pressure. The simple, actual, historical fact is that Egypt and Syria and Iraq had tried to militarily destroy Israel. Not only did they fail miserably, but they almost, Egypt lost almost the whole of Sinai. Syria lost the Golan Heights. Iraq, of course, has ceased to exist. From then on, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been a strong advocate of the fact that there needs to be regime change in 6 Arab states. Most of the regime changes have been achieved in Iraq, in Syria, Egypt, right, in Libya, in Sudan. The only state which is now left is Iran. And now Israel has gone hell-bent for leather to defang the Iranian nuclear capability, the nascent nuclear capability, and also it has tried to widen its aim and objective to regime change in Iran. So like I said, what has been preventing Israel and the Americans from carrying out their threat of this regime change so far? It was Iran's capability and declared intent that in such a disaster scenario, when its existence was put at stake, quite obviously Iran cannot survive a war waged jointly by United States and Israel and possibly NATO thrown in for good measure. It cannot survive that kind of a war. But its sole defensive strategy was a desperate strategy that if you imperil my existence, I will launch attacks on the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East. I will mine the Straits of Hormuz. I will attack oil tankers in the Gulf of Hormuz. I will incite the Houthis to hit the shipping traffic in the Red Sea and other areas, all designed to raise the price of oil to $120, $150 a barrel and strike a major blow against the global economy, induce recession, induce inflation, and give a serious setback to the global economy, which had just recovered from the COVID and from the Russia-Ukraine war outcomes. So the simple fact is, was Iran heading for a nuclear capability? Was it one screwdriver turn away from a nuclear bomb? Or, as some are trying to speculate, has Iran already got 4 or 5 nuclear bombs? And if so, what would be the implication of that in case the situation escalates? There are great imponderables here. The IAEA director, Rafael Grossi, he has stated that Iran is not making any efforts to acquire nuclear capability. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of United States intelligence, based upon inputs from the CIA and other American agencies, intelligence agencies, has clearly stated that Iran was not near a nuclear capability. She stated this in her statements before the United States Senate. And yet, the Israeli Mossad, Prime Minister Netanyahu, has been insistent that the danger is now too real for Israel to tolerate, and they will have to suffer the consequences, but they will take out Iran's nascent nuclear capability. It is just not acceptable. It imperils the existence of Israel as a nation state. 2 countries, they have said they will not accept nuclear capabilities with. One is Iran and the other is Pakistan, because these are not normal states. Pakistan is relatively more normal than Iran, because at least it is not threatened to wipe out the Jewish state. It is reconciled like the other Arab states to Israel's existence. But it was Iran which was openly making threats that Israel has no right to exist and we will wipe it off the face of the earth. When you do that and then you start going for acquiring nuclear capabilities, well, you are posing an existential threat. And then you have to be ready to take the consequences. But like I said, Iran felt that the Sunni Arabs had let down the Muslim Ummah, had let down the Muslim world. They had buckled under the military pressure, direct of Israel and indirect of the United States, and they have given up the cause of Palestine, and therefore Iran decided to create the axis of resistance, etc. And with the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, it tried to pressurize Israel and tried to put military pressure. 7th of October, we are all aware of the dastardly attack on Israel, terrorist attack by the Hamas. 1,700 Israelis were killed. And that is the time I think Israel decided enough is enough and we have to hit back. They have gone very systematically. They first destroyed the Hamas, then they turned on and destroyed the Hezbollah, and then along with the United States they inflicted serious attrition on the Houthis, and they have forced them to call it off, their attack on global shipping, Israeli shipping. The next logical step was that the head of the octopus, they had destroyed the arms of the octopus. Now the head of the octopus was Iran. So would Israel now go for Iran? Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, was quite crystal clear that Israel could not do it alone. If it had to take out the Iranian nuclear facility, it meant that it had to take out the underground, deeply buried, 800 feet underground buried facility of Fordow. That could only be taken out by the United States with its B-52, B-2 bombers, which could carry 2 of the massive ordnance penetrator bunker buster bombs, GBU-57, which is 13,200 kilograms in weight, and the B-2 bomber can carry just 2. It is very clear that Israeli jet fighters, whether the F-35, whether the F-15, are not capable of carrying such heavy ordnance, and therefore they would have to bank on American strategic bombers and massive penetration ordnance bunker buster bombs to destroy the Iranian nuclear facility. There seem to have been backstage negotiations and plans based upon which the United States and Israel decided to act in tandem with a good cop, bad cop routine, wherein Israel would mount military pressure and United States would take part in diplomatic negotiations to pressurize Iran to accept a deal to do away with its nuclear capability forever. What compounded the whole issue was that they also wanted Iran to absolutely make itself defenseless by doing away also with the ballistic missile capability. Iran has no air force to talk of, and doing its last line of defense is its ballistic missiles. If that is also taken away, what you are in effect asking Iran is to disarm itself and open itself to Israeli attacks forever and ever. Now, is that a solution which is workable or acceptable, or can you force it down the throat of any regime in Iran, in Tehran? Anyway, the attempt was made. Donald Trump gave 60 days to Iran to negotiate, and like I told you, on the 61st day, Israel attacked, even while the talks were still on, achieving complete surprise. Now let us take a look at the military operations so far. The attack on Iran by Israel came in 4 phases. Quite obviously, the attack had been coordinated with the United States, which now wanted Iran to put military pressure, heavy military pressure, actual military pressure on Iran so that it would be forced back to the negotiating table. and with adequate damage inflicted upon it. So Iran attacked on the night of 12th, 13th June. 200 Iranian jet fighters led this attack. The first phase, phase 1, was designed for SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses. Like I said, the F-35s and the F-15E Eagles, which can carry the heavy longer range cruise missiles, standoff cruise missiles, attacked western Iran. They targeted all the radars to make Iran blind, and they hit the surface to air missile batteries. Now Iran, as we all know, primarily had the S-300, the Russian S-300 equivalent missiles, which they call the SA-69. They also had the SA-63, 68 and 71 surface-to-air missile. The S-300, we know, has failed in Operation Sindoor quite badly. The Ukrainians have been using it fairly successfully, but whether for technological reasons or military training levels and technological levels of the population, it failed in Pakistan in Operation Sindoor. It has failed dismally in Iran, the S-300 equivalent. But the Iranians have their own equivalents of the S-400. Apparently some of them have worked, because Iran is claiming that it has shot down 3 F-35s. There is no proof. They have shown no debris, no carcasses, etc. And they are yet to provide convincing proof that it has happened. They even claim to have captured a pilot. These reports are unconfirmed as yet, because Israel does not take kindly to the capture of its pilots, and it would have mounted operations to rescue them. We haven't seen those operations. On day 1, they hit the enemy air defenses in Iran. They knocked out the radars, they knocked out the surface-to-air missiles. They also hit the top leadership in Iran. The top leaders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the commander was killed. The commander of the IRGC Air Force was killed. The commander of the IRGC intelligence head was killed. The chief of staff was killed, along with about 9 nuclear scientists, key nuclear scientists who were working on the bomb project, the bomb program. These were taken out. The Mossad also helped these strikes by also hitting some surface-to-air missile facilities, the entrances of the tunnels. They targeted them with drones, they targeted them with the Spike anti-tank guided missiles. Pinpoint attacks onto the command and control echelons and anti-aircraft capabilities of Iran, as also the surface-to-surface missile capability. On the second day, the Israeli Air Force launched 70 jet fighter sorties against Iran. This time the target was the surface-to-surface missiles of Iran, with which Iran would strike back. And they hit 4 military sites and hit the entrance of the cave tunnels where these are all stored. The first day itself, Iran hit back with 200 ballistic missiles designed to overwhelm the Israeli air defenses, designed to overcome the Israeli air defenses by massive barrage attacks of 200 ballistic missiles. They claim to have tried to engage the Ministry of Defense headquarters in Tel Aviv, the Mossad headquarters, as also the subsequently they hit the Haifa refinery. 15th of June, we had 50 Israeli jet fighters which hit the Tehran nuclear headquarters command and control post. They launched search and destroy missions on the Iran surface-to-surface missile launchers. They hit the air bases with Spice 250 glide toss bombs. They also hit the petrochemical facilities in Iran. Not so much the export terminals, but the internal oil storage facilities. The intention was to create problems for Iran domestically with its own people by depriving them of domestic oil consumption. It had always been speculated that instead of targeting Iran's oil exports, which would be an existential threat and could force Iran to act erratic and widen the conflict, an easier target to hit would be the domestic oil facility. Iran also exercised restraint in terms of the fact that the United States had not come into the conflict. So far, Iran has specifically restrained from hitting the Saudi oil facilities, Gulf oil facilities, any tanker traffic in the Gulf of Hormuz, or any American bases and American personnel and targets. But Iran did hit back at Haifa, a key target. 30 million tons of cargo it handles every year. It has oil storage facilities, and in retaliation for strikes on Isfahan and the other oil storage facilities in Iran, they gave tit-for-tat responses. 17th of June, Iran tried to hit, like I said, the Mossad headquarters. They were not accurate, and they hit civilian buildings around. But you could clearly make out the target was the Mossad headquarters and the 8,200 Israeli intelligence gathering unit. On 17th, 50 Israeli jet fighters, they struck the Tehran chemicals plant, etc. And once again they target the surface-to-surface missile launchers. They claim to have taken out 1/3 of these missile launchers. Now, as we observe, the capability of the Iranians to fire missiles has steadily been going down. On 13 June, they fired 200 missiles, 14 they fired 100, 15 they fired 70, 16 June they fired 40 missiles, 17 30, 18 June it was down to 25. But they had started using MIRV missiles, which could have 5 different warheads, impossible to intercept hypersonic missiles, and they are inflicting damage on Iran. We also know that Israel hit the television center, communication center, the civilian communication center in Tehran, and those video clips were shown globally, all over the world. A commentator fleeing out of the television studio as it came under attack. So far, we have seen that Iran's nuclear facilities at Natanz has been hit. What has been the damage? It is very essential that we assess that. The Natanz nuclear capability enrichment facility, the overround facilities were hit. The Israelis managed to hit their power plant, which is out of commission. But the underground facility, where there are about 14,000 of these centrifuges, R4, R6 centrifuges of Iran, which enrich the uranium, are still intact. They are non-functional because the power supply has been destroyed, but the power supply can always be restored. They have hit the Iranian nuclear laboratories. They have hit the Iranian weapons research and design facilities. They have hit the Iranian command and control very hard. Like I said, 9 to 10 top commanders. Some claims, if you go down to the brigadier general level, about 20 top Iranian commanders have been eliminated. Iran was forced to issue orders that no Iranian commander would carry the mobile or any smart watches, because they were being targeted through these. Their locations were being revealed through these. Thereafter, we do find that the hits on personnel targets have gone down. But I think what Iran had to suffer, it has already suffered in terms of command and control attrition. Further, the Iranian facility is secure. Like I said, it will need American B-52, B-2 bombers and the bunker buster bombs, which only the Americans have, in case that was to be hit. There was a long time, there was speculation that an easy option for the United States would be to just go for the Fordow facility or help Israel take out the Fordow facility. But then there are consequences. So now let us, having analyzed the conduct of the war so far, let us go on to what could happen. What is Israel's objective? Is it the destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities, destruction of its nascent nuclear weaponization capability, or is it regime change in Tehran? Israel seems to suggest that both of these are legitimate aims for Iran. Russia has reacted very strongly to this and said regime change is not acceptable. Israel has also attacked the Bushehr nuclear reactor, which has created alarm all over the world. Attack on a nuclear reactor can lead to the spread of radiation, can lead to another Chernobyl. It is not acceptable. I am afraid there are some rules and limitations that the world will have to accept. I mean that red line between attacking nuclear reactors, it sort of first we saw its severe erosion in Ukraine. Zaporizhzhia and the other reactors were attacked by both sides, conventional attacks. And now, but if Iran's Bushehr nuclear reactor is hit, well, Russia has said there will be consequences because it has said it is a civilian nuclear facility and Russian personnel are working on that facility. So the situation has changed drastically, I think, because of this Russian threat. China was very upset but could do really nothing. It has said nothing. It has sent about 2-3 heavy transport aircraft, possibly with military supplies, maybe surface to air missiles, I don't know. But Chinese surface to air missiles haven't proved very effective in Op Sindoor. It is doubtful what they could do to save Iran. Whatever it is, it has provided some 2-3 transport aircraft, loads, that is all. Russia's threat, however, has been quite viable. So, what is the matrix of options? What are Iran's options? Option 1. Iran is definitely on the receiving end. It has suffered quite heavily. It has suffered over 500 people killed and almost 1,800 wounded. Israel has also suffered, about 28 killed, which have increased to about 120 killed and about 800-900 wounded, especially with the attack on the hospital facilities, etc. So, quite obviously, Israel has the upper hand. It has gained total military air superiority over, first it had gained over Western Iran and Tehran. Now almost over the whole of Iran it has military air superiority, which means it can strike at will at any target that it chooses. Iran's sole option is to retaliate with ballistic missiles. Initially it was thought that this capability is declining, but it is now apparent that Iran can sustain these attacks. Very objectively speaking, Iran can sustain these attacks. Maybe it had slowed down the attacks just in case the America intervened. It would have to target American targets, reserve some missiles for oil facilities and major oil targets in the Gulf. So Iran was also holding its hands, but then even Israeli sorties had come down in number from 200 to 100 to 70 to 50. They were maintaining a sortie rate of about 50 every day, mostly directed at nuclear facilities, energy facilities and infrastructure. So Iran's one option was to sue for peace, to accept the terms that America was dictating. But like I said, some of those terms appear to be impossible. They may compromise on the nuclear facilities for now and try and resume them later. There is talk that Iran may walk out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which it was one of the first people to sign. All bets are off then. But right now, you may have a situation in which Iran says, okay, let me give in on the nuclear anger or temporarily, and I can always get back to it. Should that happen, then the region is headed for long-term instability. Every 2 to 3 to 5 years, Iran will regenerate its nuclear capabilities and Israel will not take it lying down. Israel will attack these facilities, and this round of violence is now likely to continue in the Middle East for a long time to come. So will America take the plunge, join up with Israel and decisively destroy Iran's nuclear facilities? It seemed very likely for a time. And Donald Trump, as we all know, had come back from the G7 summit saying, I haven't come back for peace talks. The threats that the United States held out were very ominous and were quite realistic because they had put the force levels that would be required to carry out these threats in the Middle East. The US aircraft carrier Nimitz, the largest aircraft carrier battle group in the world, was already deployed to the Gulf along with the 2 earlier aircraft carriers. They had brought in B-52, B-2 bombers to the region via Diego Garcia and into the bases in the Middle East. with the help of which they could hit further and join the war in a decisive manner. So will America join the war? Critical question. There has been a kind of a major shift in attitude, and Donald Trump said he is giving 2 more weeks to negotiation. That means quite obviously they haven't acceded to the Israeli request. Netanyahu seemed quite disappointed, but he said that it is a decision that Donald Trump has to take, keeping in mind American national interest, as I have to keep in mind Israeli national interest. But we know for a fact that Israel by itself cannot destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. So will it accept an off-ramp? Israel was quite prepared for a 12 to 15-day war. Quite prepared. That is what they had said at the outset. They estimated it would take that much time. They have the freedom of the skies over Iran. They can bomb whatever facility they like. They may not be able to take out Fadra, but they will try and inflict as much damage as possible and then possibly call it quits. So why will America not join the fray? One, because of what the Russians have said, which is a sobering element. But the actual fact is the precise reason that had held off previous American administrations from hitting Iran. And what was that prey? Simple. It was Iran's threat to widen the war into a regional war and a global economic disaster. Iran had said, you create an existential threat for us, we will hit back at Saudi Arabian, Middle Eastern oil facilities, oil traffic, we will shoot up the Gulf, the price of oil to astronomical levels, give a hit to the global economy, including that of the United States of America. That is what has held the peace so far. Looks like that may continue because there are consequences to a widening of the conflict. So America has tried a very sensible, well-calibrated Mutt and Jeff, good cop, bad cop routine with Israel and America put together. Maybe they will give an off-ramp. Depends on what Israel will do, upon what Iran will do. Iran is so far exercising restraint. It has not widened the war so far, not hit any American facility or any other. But if America enters the fray, that will change.